Today's guest is Roger Mortimer. He is the owner of the largest drone repair shop in Ohio. And in the episode, we cover how he bought the company, why he dropped out of school, and how he got into drones, and the potential for drones to infiltrate almost every industry you can imagine. So stick around to hear the interview and like, share, and subscribe if you support local legends. So, what is Ohio Drone Repair?
Ohio Drone Repair, as I like to think it is, a one-stop drone shop in Ohio. We're the largest drone repair shop in the state of Ohio, largest seller of drones, minus like Best Buy, Micro Center, other larger corporations, online stores, and that. But as I was saying, the one-stop shop, we do more than just repairs and sales. We'll do training, consulting. We recently started up rentals. So we're trying, multiple different avenues for the business, always constantly growing.
No, that's awesome. So, when you say training, are you actually training people to fly the drones and operate like cameras on them, or what exactly does this training entail?
So for the training standpoint, there's a couple different sides of it. The first side would be kind of consumers, so people who have just started off with drones, they want to learn how to fly them, the basics. So we'll go through them, show them how the drone operates, usually just try to keep them out of trees for the most part. We've done a little bit more with like the prosumer side, so people who do videography, photography. We've done a little bit of work with them on how to get great videography, different flight plans or flight paths, I should say, rather than the basics forward and backwards and circles. So we go a little bit more in depth with that. But the more interesting side would be with the public safety. So we work with over 130 departments in Ohio and surrounding states. So training the departments how to operate the drones in different uses for tactical uses, such as interior flying, confined spaces, or overwatch and surveillance and such as that.
How did you get into working with local governments? Because that seems to be something that would be hard to get into. I personally, I have a commercial cleaning company, and there's commercial cleaning companies who can work on government buildings, but there's intense amount of background checks. There's, a huge bidding process. So it's not an easy process. How did you get into that?
It wasn't terribly too hard to personally get into it. A lot of it was from being the only drone shop in Ohio. Some of these agencies already started their own drone programs. And obviously, their first job is, police and fire, as they have their main jobs there first, and second would be a drone operator. So they're not always the greatest pilots. So we started to make connections through doing repairs. When we first started off, it was only repairs, very few sales for it. So the training side, going back to that, is more on the sales of new equipment. There's some of old equipment, but mainly it's on the new equipment. But it started with, the coming in with repairs, making the relationship there. And when they started to come in for repairs and such with that, we started to let them know that we sell drones as well. We'll be able to do the training, be able to do all these different opportunities with them. From there, just creating a good relationship with one department. All the departments talk to each other in a local area. So such as, started in Summit County, started with one department, talked to the next one, and next thing you know, within a month, 5 or 6 other departments are reaching out to you. And I think a lot of it has to do with the, customer service side of things with it, just because they've dealt with out-of-state companies and such who have sold them drones. But for us, what we do, our big thing is if they have an issue, they can call anytime, morning, night, you name it. We're there to help, through troubleshooting. Personally, I've been called out on a couple missions because I needed extra backup or extra help, I should say. It was all search and rescue with that. But over time, it slowly has just grown from word of mouth. We haven't done much advertisement on the public safety side of things. I know there's a couple other organizations that I do work with. There's an organization called the NEO-PCERT, Northeast Ohio Public Safety Response Unmanned Teams, that is more of a training nonprofit organization that works and brings a bunch of departments together on how to properly use drones. I know the people who run the departments. I made the contacts through doing work with their departments, and from there, I've been able to gain a couple new sales, as well as I've worked a lot with Tri-C. They have a public safety training as well, and it started off as just repairing their aircrafts after departments have crashed it. And from talking with some of the teachers there at the school, they thought it'd be valuable that I come in every time they teach it, usually for about 30 minutes, and talk about proper maintenance, schedules, and that sorts.
But how did it actually start? Like, did you pick up the phone and, call the police departments or, local governments and were like, hey, I know you guys are flying your own drones. Is there anything that, we can do to help? Or was it just an organic find on their part saying that, okay, wow, there's a drone repair shop here. Why don't we contact this guy?
We have tried a little bit of cold calling for some of the larger departments, and we have not gotten much anywhere with it. It usually it has helped with us when we go to these departments and talk about for you guys to get drones and equipment and such as that. They want nothing to do with it. Then they'll have a call out where a drone could have been very useful, and then at that point they're all over it and they want drones. They want drones yesterday, type of deal. But most of it, like I said, came from the repair side where they naturally have found us.
Okay.
But there's been, other. It's a lot of the customer service that we do, that we talk in. We're a person there, a resource for them to use, which they do like. That is where their word of mouth spreads to them. For example, there was a search and rescue mission. I was out in my local area. We went out there, we were helping, and from there we made 3 or 4 new contacts with teams that either had drones before and they're looking to get new drones, or places after that event wanted to get drones, and now they're talking with us. So it's the advertisement per se isn't cold calling or having a booth or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's working with these departments, and other departments see that and see that there's the trust within that, and they will come our way.
Now, this must be a very exciting experience for you because to me, this is all new. The drone industry is very new. I'm sure it's been around for probably a decade or more. I'm not sure, but I'd imagine because now it's becoming more mainstream. So how is it to be in an industry that appears to me, as somebody as an outsider, to be like in its infancy stages?
Definitely the industry is evolving rather rapidly. And trying to be at the forefront of that is crucial. You're right, the decade or commercial drones is about 10 years running so far. But even over the last 3 years, the rapid changes is incredible. I mean, from drones that we were selling last year are becoming out of date for ones that already came out this year, end of this year. I mean, they're rapidly changing. So you have to be on the forefront of it, which there is the unfortunate side, as you spend all this money on expensive equipment and a couple of years later it's worth pennies to the dollar. So that part is very hard, but the technology side of things is very rapidly changing, and the use cases is always changing, which is awesome to see. Almost once a month now there's a whole new business opportunity that I hear of. For example, came across a couple months ago, there's a guy using a drone to find deer for recovery. So if a hunter goes and shoots a deer, can't find it, and they believe that the deer is dead, they'll go use a drone to go find it to see if it is dead or alive. It's hard to see sometimes if it is alive because it'll usually move to another region where it is. But that industry was not around last year, and this whole past hunting season, it's blowing up using drones for that sorts.
So it's creating new industries entirely, it seems.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, like I said, every month there's something new that I hear. I mean, some of the industries out there that you may not have known of, they use them for like wind turbine inspections, power line inspections, cell tower inspections, and modeling. So there's a company that I've worked with before that they will use drones to create a 3D model, and they use the data off of that in CAD to be able to design different mounts and rads that go onto the towers. So there's so many different industries out there that are always popping up. I mean, back in the day, real estate, and some of the roof inspections were huge, but now those, such smaller markets compared to other larger ones that have popped up.
What do you think is the most unique application for drones right now that is going to become massive, in your opinion?
That probably would be for the agriculture spraying of drones.
Really?
Um, it's in the infancy stages in the United States, but if you look at other countries, China, South America, Indonesia, and those regions or countries, it's huge there. Right now, it's just held back on regulations. Once some of those regulations get changed to fit the needs, we can see that becoming common practice. When you have a drone that has a 10-foot wingspan, spraying, crops, it's a sight to see. And the price of it compared to other farm equipment isn't outrageous. There's people covering hundreds of acres a day with a couple of these agriculture drones.
So this is another example of technology lowering the price of, lowering the entry, the a barrier to entry to numerous industries. It seems because internet did the same thing for being able to go from a brick and mortar to a Shopify store or something along those lines, or being able to market differently. And drones are bringing out. There's so many byproducts of that, and it's just incredible. This is news to me. I had no clue that drones were being used and wind turbine inspections and things of that nature. Even the 3D models used for businesses. I think I've seen something about the agriculture, but this is really fascinating.
No, yeah, most definitely. I mean, another one to mention is solar. They're huge on solar to find hot spots with the thermals. And talking about, the price of it coming down, for example, thermal technology on drones, if you have good quality, 3-4 years ago, it was about $20,000 to get into it. Now you can get into a thermal for under $6,000
Wow.
on a drone. Just the technology is advancing so rapidly. So a lot more people are able to use these drones. For example, it's making places safer for like roofers. We work with a lot of roofing companies that use drones to inspect roofs, and so they don't have to put people onto the roofs, which potentially could fall off, get injured, get killed. So there's a safety factor with it that a lot of people don't talk about.
Now, is this the reason why you've created a drone repair company as opposed to just being one specific niche? Because you can be a part of all these industries.
Yeah, just to clear one thing, I didn't create the company. I purchased the company from the
Okay.
previous owner a little over 2 years ago. I was working for him as well. I had my own drone service provider, providing different mapping and photos and such as that. So was doing both of those businesses, and I just noticed people that were considered my competitors were all coming to the same place. Everyone is crashing drones. Um, the drone flying side is a little more cutthroat. There's a lot of competition in there, but
Mhm.
there's no one on the repair side. So I saw this opportunity that the previous owner was looking to get out of the business, wanted to move and be with family. So I took that opportunity knowing that there's no one wants to be on this side of the drone industry. They want to be, on the side where they're flying and having more fun on that such.
Now, do you have a preference as to what side you're in? Like, do you prefer to fly or repair, or be more so on the selling side of things?
So where I stand, I'm on the selling side with public safety. That's the part I really enjoy right now. My tastes are constantly changing. I used to love flying, but after flying drones all the time, you lose the interest in it because it used to be a hobby. So I was on the repairs. I still enjoy doing the repairs, but after doing it for so long, it gets a little boring. Also, we fly the drones, every single drone that we repair. So I get plenty of flying still with it. So I still have those parts covered. But the sales side and working with public safety, being able to get equipment in their hands that saves them, instead of sending an officer in a house, you can send a small interior drone in. That part, which I think is awesome, is working with these agencies.
Now, what do you think is the biggest skill, or maybe there's a couple different skills that you have developed during your time as a business owner in the drone industry?
Are just like basic skills overall or drone related skills?
Whatever you think would be the most impactful in your life as not only a business owner but in your specific industry. So, you can be, you can say, well, the ability to negotiate or being able to train people on drones, and something along those lines, essentially.
Okay. Yeah. The biggest skill that probably has helped me out is my problem solving skill. With these drone repairs, it's not like a car you can plug in and it'll give you all the codes. You have errors, and at that point, it's trial and error for it. And it's not as simple as it sounds like. Because when you have one error, it could be 10 or 15 different things, and you have to look at damages where the drone crashed. At that point, you can follow it back. Could it be a ribbon cable? Could it be a bad board, spliced wire, or something like that? So the problem solving has definitely helped me a lot. Whenever I run into issues, I can just walk back from the issue and come back to the uh, most reasonable solution. Because when you have issues, it may look like it's one thing, but in reality, it's a completely different thing. And that's probably helped me out the most. Um, People skills, working with customers all the time. I think that definitely has helped me be able to talk with other people, other clients, and bigger contracts. That has definitely helped. I'm getting used to that from going from high school pretty much into this. The people I knew were in high school and basic life. Now I've opened up to the whole real world and all the different people and communications. Those are probably the two biggest skills that I've developed. Other than other basic skills that I've learned over time, a little bit of marketing, accounting. With business, you first starting off, you wear all hats. So I get to learn a little bit of everything.
Nice. So, did you go to college at all for this, or did you study any like formal education to get into what you're doing, or is this just something, as you mentioned earlier, just purely a hobby and self-taught?
Um, Hobby and self-taught. So I did go to college for 6 weeks. School never was my thing. I could never pay attention in school. I've always had a niche for being an entrepreneur. It runs in our family. That's how I know I've been raised. When I was a kid, I always had little businesses: snow plowing, landscaping, good old lemonade stand here and there. Um, so school never was my thing. So when I had to talk to my parents that I didn't want to continue with school, I had to give them a presentation on what I wanted to do. From having two older sisters who got great degrees, go to Ohio State University, and there's me that no interest in school, went to community college and all that. So after to be able to for me to drop out, I had to give my parents a presentation on what I wanted to do. And I told them I wanted to get into the drones because I've been interested with the drones. I worked at a couple different drone companies before and such. And I gave them a business plan on what I wanted to do. I'm kind of like going to a banking, getting a loan. So I talked with them what I want to do, gave them a whole presentation, and they gave me a deadline that I had to have something up and running by summertime. That was reasonable. When because I start school in it was August, so I had little under a year to create something. And when they said yes to it, I went and I worked, day and night to be able to create something, and that's where I got to. That was my first drone service provider company, which at that point then turned into um, taking over the repair shop. So with the drone service provider, it was doing pretty well. I used that money to be able to purchase the shop, but it didn't fill up all my time. And to learn more about drones, I took the opportunity to work at the drone shop, and that's how the relationships were able to switch into there.
Wow, that's awesome that your parents put you, basically put your feet to the fire. Like, all right, if you don't want to go to school, that's fine, but show us that you're actually going to do something and not just waste your time. Do a bunch of other things and just being distracted. It puts you on a path to be focused, and that's amazing. I think that should be something more parents do for their children, especially now because the opportunities are bountiful. A degree is not necessary to be successful in the world we live in today. Not knocking college. I think there are definitely some wonderful use cases for a formal education. But somebody who has the entrepreneurial mindset, if parents can cater to their child's, natural inclinations, I think not only can you improve society, but you have a better result overall in your relationship.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I mean, and there were struggles with starting everything up. When I was focusing all my energy into it, um, there was definitely concerns that I wasn't going to get there. But it took time. I kept at it, kept on working and working, late nights, missing times with friends, not going out and partying and such as that, and just sticking into it. And I'm happy I did. There was times I've wanted to quit, but um, just keep on going. I was like, one more week at this, one more week at this. And eventually I was able to look back not too long ago and be like, I'm really impressed with what I've created over time. And it just takes time. There's no results happen over a week,
Mhm.
a month, even a year. You can only see light progressions. But if you look at after a couple of years and you look back and you'll be like, wow, there is a lot that has happened in that time frame.
And I think the biggest thing you said right there is being able to take it a week at a time. I heard this story of this guy whose father was an alcoholic, but he had recovered and hadn't drank in, I don't know, maybe 10 years or something like that. It was a significant amount of time. And his son asked him, "So, Dad, are you going to go another year without drinking?" And his dad's response was, "I don't know, but I'm going to go one more day." And I think that that's so applicable to being an entrepreneur, is being able just to focus on the task at hand today and make small, movements that improve you overall, and stay focused on your vision.
Oh, most definitely. When I was talking about 1 week at a time, I would go and build out a schedule or goals I had to hit, and I would look back at that week and be like, I have accomplished something. There was more completed in this time frame. Is it what I hoped for, planned for? No, it was not, but it still was progress, and that's what kept me going. Is being able to look back and see there was progress being made with that. So that definitely is a great story with that one day at a time.
Yes, 100%. Now, the thing I'm curious about when it comes to training, do you have to be licensed? Like, is there some kind of certification that you need, or a specific licensing that allows you to train somebody, or can anybody in a business setting just say, "I can train you to fly" without any, validation or accreditation?
For the drone industry, there's really very few certificates or licenses for that. On the training side, there is not. It's more just uh, my reputation that I have,
Mm.
with what I work with, and saying I can work with all. I've worked with all these different agencies and such as that. People understand like, okay, if I can train these people, they can be able to train me. Um, as for certificates in the drone industry, or I should say licensings, there is a couple. The first one is a trust certificate. Technically, every commercial pilot, or not commercial, recreational pilot. So if you just have a drone for fun, you have to get a trust certificate through the FAA. It's completely free. It's an online test, just saying that airspace laws, because there is a lot of laws, so you don't run up into helicopters, airplanes, and such as that.
Mm.
For commercial use, there is called a Part 107 license. It's your commercial drone pilot's license. If you want to fly drones and make money off of it, or in our standpoint, that we are repairing the drones and then test flying it, we will need to have the Part 107 license. A lot of it has to deal with aviation. It's not super drone oriented. There is some of the basic drone laws, like you can't go over 400 feet, you can't go past line of sight, and such as that. But a lot of it goes back to sectional maps, METARs and TAFs, which are weather ratings for aviation. So they pull a lot of information from the aviation side, which I don't 100% agree with, but that's what they have for right now. Then another notable license is the 137. When I was talking about the agriculture drones and the
Mhm.
regulations, the biggest thing is the 137. If you want to spray crops with chemicals, you need to get the 137, but that process to get one of those is over 2 years.
Wow.
So it's a very few people. There in the state of Ohio, there's about 5 or 6 people that actually have that license. Across the United States, there might be 100 or so. So that's the biggest thing is you can get fined if you're flying without it. And it's just an extra license on top of the 107. That means you can spray chemicals, but they don't make the process easy. So that's where the industry isn't growing due to that fact.
So there's a huge opportunity for, say, a third party to come in and help a farmer out and say, hey, I have this, I forget the exact numbering of the license to do the, to
The
pilot
137, yes.
137. So they can come in and say, hey, I have my 137 license. Do you want to partner? I can help improve your crops by, utilizing this drone. It lowers your cost as well. You don't need XYZ equipment. So there's opportunity there.
Yes, yeah, there's a lot of companies that are out there that do that. In the state of Ohio, there's only 2 that I can think of that will do something like that. One called Avon UAS, who only recently got their 137, I want to say about 3-4 months ago. And then Davy Resource Group, which is a pretty well-known company, they have their 137. They do a lot of work on right-of-ways, highways, and such as that. But there is a lot of opportunity with that. But in the state of Ohio, farmers aren't as open to this new technology.
Mm.
You'll find a lot more of it out west, Kansas, and those states around there, of people spraying and being okay with it. We have a lot of older generation farmers here in the state of Ohio that aren't open to it, and the people that are open to it are younger farmers.
Right, and there's not as many younger farmers as there are older farmers, which makes it hard to get your foot in the door in that market specifically. Now, what I know you're probably not an expert when it comes to the agricultural side of things, but what would be something holding them back aside from wanting to preserve their just being comfortable doing the work that they do now, how they do the work they do now, as opposed to going and using a drone? Is there any setback to it?
The training side of things is definitely a part of a setback. More on the side of with how it sprays compared to like a big commercial sprayer. Um, you have less spray that you need because you're more of a direct area, but it also affects, you have your downforce of the propellers pushing it down, so you have to use less. So a lot of the calculations there is where a lot of people get tripped up with. Another portion of it is you have to do a little bit of mapping because it's all an automated flight plan. So you take off with the drone, it goes, it flies a couple acres, and it comes back, and you switch out batteries and refill the chemicals. So they're pretty simple when they're set up, but a lot of it is getting the chemicals right.
Now, in your particular business, are you guys looking to expand into doing anything like that? Or are you guys just trying to stay essentially in your lane with the drone repairs, the training, and the storefront where you can sell the drones?
So we are looking, hopefully in the next year or 2 to get into the agriculture drones, for the repair and sales side of things. We have no interest in the spraying, portion of it. That's not in line with our business model. So we have repaired a couple of these drones. They're a bit of a work, to work on. First of all, to get the parts from it is a little difficult. And second is the whole new flight plan. We're not trained on those as of right now, so the information we have on them is limited. So we've done minimal repairs on them and minimal service. I want to say, to date, we've maybe have gone through about 6 or 7 of those drones, but it's a market we're looking to get into. All of the drones or in the commercial drone industries, for the most part, at 95% is a company called DJI. So they have these agriculture drones. They have all these commercial drones and such. So one of the opportunities I had over the winter was to either go on the enterprise drones, get a dealership through that, or go on the agriculture. And I decided to go on the enterprise side because I already have the business base with all the public safety and such as that. It just basically means I'm a direct contact. I get the drones through directly through DJI instead of a supplier, or like a third-party supplier or distributor. So we went that route for this year, and next year we might pick up the agriculture side of things.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. Now, for somebody who's interested in getting into this industry but doesn't know where to start, where could they, begin to develop their skills and maybe get a job working for you or some other drone company? Like, what are some things that you believe are most valuable, maybe to you and then the industry as a whole?
Yeah, most definitely. Are you saying more just across the whole drone industry or more on the repair side?
So yeah, so I guess that's kind of a broad question there. For you specifically, what would be the most useful skill set somebody can develop and help bring value to your business,
Yeah,
to
most
your
definitely.
side of things?
So I have 7 different employees. I'm going to base it off their information that work for me. Out of all of those employees, none of them had experience before repairing drones. A couple of them maybe have fixed 1 or 2 of their own personal drones, but they didn't have experience of that. Since it's such a new industry and such a limited market, it's hard to find a person that has repaired a bunch of drones. So what I've looked for definitely is strong problem solving skills. People that are able to handle a lot of tasks. Just because you'll be working on one drone and it'll go through and you have to update, and the updates can take a while, so you have to move to another task or another project. So being able to multitask, work ethic, problem solving, and a big portion of it is that they will fit in with the workforce. Have a
Or the
good
culture?
personality. You have the culture. That's a big part. I mean, I have out of all the people that work for me, they've come from all different walks of life. I mean, I have a one of the employees that's part time is a firefighter for Canton, and he works part time here at the shop whenever he can. For him, he works 24 on, 48 off at the fire station, so usually can get them between 2 to 4 days a week. Another one did a lot of work with 3D printers, had a small landscaping company. Wanted to look for something more. We made connections there. He started working for me. Um, Another one was a mechanic. I wanted something a little bit different. Was tired of um, busting his knuckles on cars and such. So he came to me when I was looking for an employee, and it worked out well. I have some people that are in college that do work for me. One of them is a electronic engineer. Another one is an ROTC for the military. So it's just a little bit all over. A lot of it is just having those skills. But to answer your question on more of the drone side, if people want to get into the drone industry, a big thing is having the Part 107 license. And from there, there's a lot of jobs that are out there that you can gain experience on some of the larger platforms. There's a company out there that's in Ohio that they map out farm fields using larger platforms. And if you can say you have 300 hours experience on this platform, so many hours on this platform, that will do really well for you. So being able to have experience on multiple platforms and a lot of flight hours is what really benefits you.
You touched on something that I think is very important, especially for small businesses, and that is making sure people work well together, the culture. What are some things that you've learned as I know you said you've purchased the company from somebody else, so there was kind of already, I'm assuming, an established culture there, which you're just kind of fostering. Maybe you've altered it. I'm not sure, but what are some things that you have, you know, learn that would be good for somebody else who's trying to develop, has a small company and they are looking to hire people and want to create a culture that is going to be well suited for people coming into this industry? Because that's the best thing. That's one of the best things that small businesses have to offer is the culture. It's hard for us to really compete with the bigger companies and pay or, something along those lines or, benefits. But what small companies can do is really harness the culture, the level of education that they receive, those kind of things. So, what's the biggest thing that you think has helped you develop culture or shape it?
Um, a lot of it is, I like to have the work place pretty laid back. You know, it's we always have music on, we're always joking around, always having a good time, but it's when there's customers comes in or when the work gets busy, we're serious and on the point. When it's slower, we could be talking a little bit more, sharing different things we did over the weekend, or talking about life, just being almost friends
Mhm.
is where things are. That helped out a lot. I like to go and have a company outing um, once or twice a year, bring everyone out, have a good time, not have to talk about work with that. Um, and it definitely is a really good question that you asked. Now, I've never really thought about it in that way. When we've had people come in, new people, usually just being able to have all of the people talking to each other, and you can kind of get a personal vibe from the person if they're going to fit in or not with it. Um, that is a really good question.
It's something I've been thinking a lot about because I have one employee currently, and I can't pay them a tremendous amount, but one thing I can do is attempt to communicate with them the education that they can receive in this, because it's more than just being a cleaner. I'm teaching them how to do sales, and then I'm also teaching them how to um, you know uh, track inventory, and I'm starting to teach them how to write proposals, and just all the back end side of things that I more so focus on right now. So really, for me, I'm like, as we get more people in there, how do we create this culture so that, because cleaning is not not everybody wants to grow up and be a janitor. So it's like, what can I do to make this more enticing to attract the right people, ambitious people? And it's something that I've been thinking a lot about too. So it's something I'm learning about myself.
you know, um, I just have to say, make sure the workplace is fun. I try to be enjoyable every once in a while. If it's a Friday, usually we do it more in the summer when everything's a long good week. We'll go last hour, last 2 hours. I'll put something on called Drone Jeopardy, where it's just like Jeopardy, but it's drone related questions, and whoever wins, I'll give them an extra hour of pay or something along those lines. Or um, like 4th of July, I got like the those red, white, and blue popsicles for everyone. Just making it an enjoyable place. Another thing that helps is our setup in the shop is a bullpen setup, so all the desks are kind of all facing each other, all in the same area. So you're able to talk and tell stories as you're doing work. So when you're working on the repairs, you are focused on the repairs, but you're able to talk to each other.
Mhm.
Tell stories, tell past experience, and such as that.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's so important because you spend so much time at work anyway, and you want to have a. I don't want to say you don't want to. I don't really care for the term work family, but you want to be able to have a strong relationship with the people you work with. Now, I want to circle it back around to yourself and the drones specifically, and that is, how did you get into drones? Because I don't think we've covered that exactly yet. I know that you said this was like self-taught and it was a hobby, but what was the catalyst for you to get into drones?
Yeah, most definitely. So it goes back to about 2015, 2016 when I got my first drone for Christmas, first real drone. I've wanted to have a drone for so long, and I finally got one for Christmas. From there, recently around that same time, I don't know if it was before or after, there was a good family friend that had a wedding photography business and they used drones. And I thought that was so cool. They used, drones being part of a business. From there, on the side, I did a little bit of work with some family friend that were real estate agents. I started flying for them. Um, I was, so young that I didn't even have my license. My mom would drive me from house to house, and it was just here or there, and taking some photos of the houses. But other than that, I used the drone for fun. Flying around, never go on a trip and such, taking some photos. From there was a drone company that popped up right in my neighborhood. And I went to them. I was like, hey, I'm looking for a job. Would you be interested? The person said, there was definitely interest there, but I needed to have my Part 107 license. At that time, I had no idea what that license was. So after they told me I needed that Part 107 license, got off the phone, went online, looked it up, scheduled a test for, it was like less than a week. From there, it's probably one of the only tests I've actually ever studied for my life. Studied for it, passed with flying colors. Went back, gave them a call. They said they appreciate that I got the Part 107, but they weren't interested. I kept up at it for every couple months, giving them a call, seeing if they were ready. And After 3 or 4 months of trying, I kind of let it be. I'm like, okay, this, dream's not going to happen. A few months later, I get a phone call and they wanted me to come back in for an interview because were looking for pilots at that time. Went in there, walked out the door with a job, and I was starting like the next day. I worked there for a couple of years. And unfortunately, that company went under, and I started flying part-time for another drone company doing some of the cell tower inspection work or 3D mapping. During that same time is when I was starting up college and that such. So once the college part stopped, that's when I started my own service provider, trying to do something similar to what that previous company I worked for, which did a lot of roof inspections, mapping, and a little bit of everything. So over about a year's time of working up that company, as well as doing some of the cell tower work and also working at the repair shop part-time, that's when I made the switch to go full-time into the repair shop once I purchased it, which was March of 2021.
One of the biggest takeaways I have from the story you just told was your level of determination. It's inspiring, and I resonate with that. I find that there's a good amount of people who get deterred after being rejected the first time, and whatever it may be, and especially in entrepreneurship. I have a trail of dead businesses behind me. I've failed numerous times at business, but it didn't stop me to keep try. It's just, and it's not even, and maybe this is the same for you, but when those failures occurred, it wasn't really like a step back for me. It was just like, all right, well, what do I have to do next? It wasn't really anything to deter me from my focus and wanting to become a business owner. Do you think that's some of your mindset as well, where you're just not really so much focused on being rejected, like you had said, you got your license, you passed, was the only test that you studied for, and they're like, thank you, but we don't really need you right now.
I'll say persistence has definitely been the biggest impact. I have to say is being persistent at it for opportunities. All my greatest opportunities, I was constantly persistent of what I wanted. Kept on trying and trying and trying and trying. That was probably the biggest thing for me. Another part of it is I enjoy the journey of building something. I'm not in it for the money. Money part is nice, but it just comes naturally. If you're enjoying the journey, I'm enjoying like fixing problems. So for example, every 1 to 2 months, I'll go ask all my employees, what issues do you have here in the shop? What can I fix? What would you like to see changed? All this. And they'll give me, 5 to 10 different things. And from there, for the next month, I go and I try to fix all the issues. And that's what I enjoy, the whole fixing issues. That's what a lot about business is, just solving issues. And that's the part I enjoy of it. I mean, if you go in it for the money, I don't think you ever have the right mindset. But if you're for the growth, the constant growth, and making sure something is bigger and better is what really drives me.
Yeah, and what I think about when you say that you have to enjoy the process is, maybe this is a horrible analogy, but this is what came to my mind is, as a kid, coming up for like Christmas or maybe your birthday or something, the most exciting time about that was the lead up to it. But then when the day actually comes, it's really exciting. You open your gifts, you do whatever, you have your celebration, your birthday, whatever. But then after that, it's kind of like a lull. Not saying that you're ungrateful or anything or nothing like that, but the anticipation to get there is more exciting than the actual arrival at the destination.
I
And the same
100
thing's applicable.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. For example, this the Enterprise dealership, which is we're the first people in the state of Ohio to even get this, and there's maybe another 50 companies in the United States that actually has this Enterprise dealership. I've been working on it for about 8 months, trying to get through with it, as well as the agriculture. And when I finally got it and signed the document, it was just like another ordinary day. It didn't feel anything
Right.
special or anything like the fun of it almost, went away. But at that point, when I get to those stages where I can feel like the drive and or not as fun as there, I look to see, okay, now this is now the bottom. What is going to be the top? And at that point, that's the next thing to drive towards. And it's when you hit those goals, it's it is somewhat unsatisfying of
Mhm.
a feeling. It's the drive and the whole journey there, which is awesome.
Yeah, no, I think that's so true. We recently closed 2 new contracts. We're in the works of closing a third one right now, but the whole process of actually, because we do a lot of cold calls. We do a lot of cold calls and door to business because we do commercial. And really just being able to get on the phone, set the appointment, go to the appointment, go through the walkthrough, give them their estimate on the spot, and then, if there's some negotiation on the pricing or a little more, negotiation in general as to what's being done, that part is is a thrill to me because it's all that anticipation to the win, and then you get the win. You're like, all right, where's my next battle? Where are we going next? Like, all right, we've got this one. Let's move on to the next one.
Oh,
You know,
most definitely. I mean, yeah, for the public safety, working with them, and when you finally first get in, they're interested in drones. That's when it's not as simple as they want a drone, you give them a quote, and that. It is a little bit of a process. You have to go there, give them demos, and try to convince them what drones they need to get. We go on a standpoint. We don't try to sell them the biggest, best equipment out there. We sell what they need. But going through that process of trying to get them to pick a drone and going and finally getting that PO. And once you get that PO, it's over and you're on to the next one. It's the most exciting part of business, I have to say, is that whole drive and journey because you don't know what it is. And I think it's the you can't tell what it is going to be. If you know you're going to get a yes, it's okay. You're going to get a yes. But if you're going to get a no, at that point, how do you go and turn that no into a yes?
right, exactly. And that's probably one of the uh, most crucial skills I've learned as being a salesman. I've done door to door sales, and I do sales for my business, and I do sales for my full time job as well. And but it's not really hard sales at the automotive shop that I work at. It's just, do you want this or do you not want this? I'll tell you, why you should get it, etc. But is that converting that no to a yes? At our last contract that we got, I had to do just that. At first, they were like, pricing's too high. We're going to stick with the cleaning company we currently have, despite the fact that, during the walkthrough, the whole time they're like complaining to me about how inadequate, the work was being done and how they just weren't pleased with it. And so just being able to just be persistent and, negotiate on price a little bit, but then, ultimately, keep your feet down and where you're standing, and like, I'm not letting this go. I'm not, and I think that that's a crucial skill for everybody to learn because that's applicable in everything in life, not just business.
Yeah, most definitely. I 100% agree with that. Is just if you take no as that's end, then you're not going to get anywhere. There's some of my best deals have been from turning no's into yeses, and it just takes time to do that. And not always is it the price. Sometimes it's your service, what you can do to offer
Right.
more for it. And one thing, for example, for our public safety, we offer 2 years free maintenance and service, so they can drop off their drones. We'll look through everything, make sure everything's up to date and everything. That's something that we provide that other customers don't. Setup and training, every single one, we provide them 2 to 4 hours. We'll actually go to their department, get everything set up with them, show them how everything works. So when we leave, they're all ready to go. If they get called out at that time, they can go and take it.
Nice. So, what is your vision for the company? Like, what is your ultimate vision and where you see the company going?
No problem. So I have to say that my goals, I set unrealistic goals. Because if you set realistic goals, for the most part, everybody fails to meet their goals. When you set unrealistic goals, when you fall short of them, you're still happy with what you have. So my goal is to be the biggest drone repair shop and seller in the whole nation. Um, I know it is a far-fetched goal, but it's what I drive to every day. A lot of my other goals are personal goals that help this. I want to do this for my future family and such as that. I would love to support my parents as they support me for the past 18 years of my life. Those are some other driving factors, I would like to be able to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, and I couldn't agree more with aiming high. Like our goal right now for the cleaning business, the most profitable cleaning business in the United States is like they make like $6.5 billion a year, but they cover a lot of ground. They just don't do, janitorial services. They do window cleanings, carpet cleanings, maintenance work, power wash, everything. You name it related to cleaning, they're in it. And it started off by some dude just uh, doing window cleans. This was like back in the 1900s, and they were the first cleaning company to get um, a cleaning contract in a university, Stanford University to be specific. But one of our goals is to hit that $1 billion mark. It sounds so absurd when you're talking about cleaning, and but the journey is what's going to be the most fun part, as we've already talked about. But we have a monetary goal, and that is, as you were saying, to also help our families and, maybe pass this on to, for generations as well. But no, that's awesome. And I only share that because dreaming big, I think, is very important, because even if you don't necessarily hit that mark, you can get close to it. And so there's nothing wrong with dreaming big. I think that's really important.
Most definitely. I mean, you definitely, when you have smaller goals, I feel like you don't put as much effort in to it, because okay, if I have a year to hit this, then you just take your time to get there. But when you have a ridiculous goal and you do everything you can, to prove to people that you can hit these ridiculous goals, it's it's an awesome feeling.
Mhm.
From from last year, my goal that I set was relatively smaller of a goal, and I didn't even realize it. And I was able to blow through the goal, not from focusing on the goal. This year, I'm more goal driven to hit a certain number. But last year, it was just a journey of constantly working and just going at it and enjoying the journey. And that pushed me well through the goal of even trying.
Yeah. So this leads me to then this question of, what is your biggest motivation?
Biggest motivation? That is a good question. I have to say it for my future self. Everything I try to do is for my future self. So I do every time I don't want to do something, I think, um, is this gonna help my future self, or is it not gonna help my future self? And when I look at it that, I'd rather help my future self than not help it. But I have to say, 10% of the time is when I'm actually motivated to, do all these big projects. The rest of the 90% is just discipline of I have to do it. It sucks, but I will continue working and grinding at it. So I have to say my biggest goal is to help my future self.
Now, do you find it? Because me personally, I couldn't agree more with what you're saying. And not saying that that's my biggest motivator, but it's definitely one of my motivators is my future self. But do you find that it is difficult when that's your driving force, or one of your biggest driving forces, to be in the present? I find that that's hard for me. I have a family, I have 3 kids, and one of the things that is a struggle for me is being in the present, especially on my days off. Technically,
I don't think so, because I take that with
okay.
my whole life, everything. So if I'm thirsty, it's like, okay, I can drink a Coke, but is that Coke gonna help me? Or if I drink water, that's gonna be healthier for me. So I'll go and I will grab the water, type of deal. So every decision I make um, will come down to that. Will it help me? Will it not help me? Type of
Mm,
deal. That's how I look at business, how I look at life, and everything with that. And another thing for that is I feel you can't just thrive in business and not thrive in the rest of your life. So you have to make sure your
mm,
relationships are healthy with your family. I feel working out definitely has helped a lot. At the beginning, I wasn't working out, and ever since um, I started working out, I feel like that has helped my productivity. Making myself better helps everything overall better. Better brain is going to help the business. Better body, be able to do these things, to last longer, to do it is going to help me. So it's that one driving factor is what I um, that helps me the most. And I know each person has different things that motivate them. Such as you brought up the person that says the one more day. That was their driving factor. Is they think one more day, one more day. For me, it's does this help me or does it not help my future self? Is when I take every situation. Is it I'm hungry. Do I eat a bag of chips or do I eat something healthy?
right.
It's
No, I think that's a brilliant framework to have for your life. It's simple. I think people try to make things too complicated, but it's very simple, and I appreciate that a lot. That's a brilliant way to live life.
Most definitely. And I think a lot of the biggest thing is discipline to be able to do that, having control of your brain at every second of the day. That's something that I've learned from one of David Goggins' books about
Mm.
his his whole hard life is being in control, and being able to make that decision is the decision is not always good. Do I like go out on a Friday night with friends, or do I stay in and I get work done, or stay in, read a book or something like that? It's just
Right.
making decisions that will better your life is what I go for. I know in the moment it sucks, but I will thank myself for it, or thank my past self.
Yeah, delayed gratification is the number one, I think, shared characteristic among successful people is delayed gratification. Um, Now, kind of a fun question to ask you here: network, money, or fame? Which would you choose and why?
I would say network. That's been probably one of the biggest thing that has helped me. Is knowing people. One thing there's a saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I think it more as it's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. For these people that know you, you'll be able to get a lot done. There's a lot of people who say they know this person, but you don't actually have a relationship there. But if you can build a relationship with all these different people, it can help you in ways that you never imagined. And it's something as just getting, one customer's phone call can turn into one of your biggest deals. There was one customer. I mean, I'm open from Monday to Friday, and usually I like to have the weekend for myself, but usually I'm still working and stuff. And this one customer called, and I was not going to answer the phone call, and I was like, you know what? It's not going to help my future self if I just decline this call. What if it's a customer, and if their repair, only brought in $10, this $10 my future self didn't have, and I took that phone call, and now he's one of my biggest clients from
Wow.
that. So it's just the network, and from there, he's been able to help me work with multiple other sales and other. He's gotten me contacts with other agencies and such as that. So it's definitely is the network is the biggest thing in business.
Yeah, no, and that's been the overall theme with everybody I've been asking is that's a theme on this in this show here is network, money, or fame, and everybody so far unanimously is choosing network, and I couldn't agree more. Like even when there's times, let's say that you have somebody who you tried to sell to, and that deal fell through, right? That happened to me, and they can still help you out. That happened to my business actually because there was this one restaurant we were trying to close. We were like, hey, we're going to offer kitchen cleaning. You have somebody doing the dining room, but what about the kitchen? Like nobody's cleaning your kitchen. Not saying it it was disgusting or anything, but it's hard to maintain, and restaurants are in need of commercial cleaning. So it's like, hey, we can help you with the kitchen. And so he was like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Send me the proposal. I sent him the proposal, and he never got back to me. And then I, followed up with him like maybe a week later, and he was like, there's a lot going on right now. So he kind of pushed me aside, and then he called me back like 2 weeks later saying, hey, I really want to go with you, but just some things are coming up. So I'm giving him some time. And well, out of nowhere, last week, I received a phone call from another restaurant owner in the same town who said that, hey, this guy gave me your number saying I should give you a call because we need help with our cleaning. And this is a pretty big restaurant. It's like a bar. It's in a college town. It's in Kent. And that lesson right there that I've learned was persistence and just getting your name out there and being able to make a connection with somebody. Because even though this guy and we never did business, he still had this sense that my company was good based on the rapport that we developed, and that he was confident enough in passing it off to somebody else who I never heard of. And once again, I've never worked with the other guy before, but he's like, hey, here you go. And now this is going to be the third deal that we've landed this month from a referral from somebody I didn't even work with.
Most definitely, it's building your book of business. I mean, that's the whole public safety industry for me. it's all of that. They talk to this department talks to that department, and from some of the departments that don't give sales, they also give off the information to other departments, and it's definitely is building up your network or your book of business.
100%. So, Roger, where can people find your shop, and not just in real life, but on social media, everywhere?
Yeah, most definitely. So our shop's located in Richfield, Ohio, known for the old Richfield Coliseum, right off that road, less than a mile away. Our address and information is online: Google Maps, Apple Maps, Google. You can find it on our website, ohiodronerepair.com. We also do a Facebook and Instagram, which are both Ohio Drone Repair as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on today, man. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thank you for having me.